The belief of Hadhrat Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam about life, the life or death of Jesus, was exactly the same as the Quran had mentioned. His belief could not contradict the Quran. Not in a single hadith we find Rasulullah sallallahu mentioned that Jesus did not die upon cross. He did not even go through the suffering upon cross. He was lifted to the fourth heaven by the angels, and he did not die. This concept about Jesus' life, which you read in the medieval literature or medievalist scholars of today, is totally absent from any book of hadith. To this we have been drawing the attention of all the Muslim world. Why don't you search hadith for that view about Jesus which you hold? You have a belief which is not mentioned by hadith and which is not mentioned even by implication in the Holy Quran. On the contrary, verses were revealed to Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah sallam which continuously spoke of Jesus' death. And strangely, these verses outnumber all verses which speak of the death of other prophets. Because Allah knew better that the Ummah of Muhammad Rasulullah sallam will create a false belief about Jesus' life and death. So the Quran, foreseeing it, mentioned his death so clearly and positively that anyone who is not influenced by his forefathers or by the mullahs, if he reads those verses of the Quran directly, I'm sure he can get no other message than the one I'm delivering. Death of Jesus, corporal body of Jesus, we mean, and his spiritual rise to Allah. These are two things which are constantly mentioned in the Quran. I quote one verse, for instance, which speaks, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وما محمد إلا رسول قد خلت من قبله الرسل. The meaning is, Muhammad is no more than a prophet. And all the prophets before him have passed away. Was Jesus before him or not? So by the time this verse was revealed, he must have passed away. And that is exactly the inference which was drawn by Sahaba, particularly by Hazrat Abu Bakr, after the demise of Hadhrat sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Hazrat Umar almost lost his senses when he heard about the death of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He went to the mosque and collected around him an assembly of Sahaba who were also dazed. And he was delivering a speech there and claiming that whoever dared to declare that Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is dead, I'll kill him with this sword of mine. At that time, Abu Bakr, hearing of this, went to the mosque and began by reciting this verse. وَمَا مُحَمَّدٌ إِلَّا رَسُولٌ قَدْ خَلَتْ مِنْ قَبْلِهِ الرُّسُلُ أَفَإِن مَاتَ أَوْ قُتِلَ انقَلَبْتُمْ عَلَىٰ أَعْقَابِكُمْ. Hazrat Umar reports this tradition which I am going to tell you. He says, when Abu Bakr recited this verse, I had an impression that as if it were revealed today, that day. I had never thought of the meaning of this verse. And for the first time, I was so profoundly convinced that Muhammad Rasulullah sallam must have died because he was no more than a prophet and all prophets before him had died. This shock made him swoon and he dropped senseless at the same place he was claiming that this sword will kill anybody, this sword will kill anybody who claims to the contrary. So this is a single verse which I have quoted. Any Muslim with any common sense, without being prejudiced by the mullahs, if he just considers this verse, he will be convinced that Jesus is not alive anywhere in the heaven. Only then he will begin to see the day of light of day. Where in heaven? Why? It's amazing. People never think in the modern terms of scientific knowledge. The middle heaven, which the mullahs claim Jesus was removed to, you know how far distant it is from us? Almost 10 billion light years. Light travels at 186,000 miles per second. And so far, all the scientists have agreed that nothing material can move faster than light. Nothing material. If Jesus was made of matter, like you know he was, then he could not have moved faster than the speed of light. So where will be he by now? Out of 10 billion years, hardly 2,000 years have passed. He should be still somewhere here around us. And if he reaches there after 10 billion years, his return would take exactly the same time. Will you wait for 20 billion years for Jesus to return? Open up your eyes, awaken to the realities of this universe, and forget about these myths created by the mullah. They only perpetuate their own rule of Islam by doping you with these mythical beliefs which can never come true. Thank you.
Hazur, next question is from Mr. Keith Bates from Bedford. Seated there. From Bedford. The question
Keith
is...
Vaz or Keith Vaz?
What is his Bates?
Huh?
Bates.
Yeah, thank you.
Hazur, the question is, men that have been close to God Almighty have been directed by vision and dreams. There is a spirit of error and spirit of truth. How do we discern the spirit of truth? And second question is, what is the evidence of manifestation of the supernatural in the Islamic faith?
The first question first, please.
Right.
Would you please clarify the question? I have not yet been able to understand it fully.
Yes, with respect, my first question was regarding the men of old prophets, and even today, men and women who are close to God, who are directed by visions and by dreams. My question was, how do you discern?
Which one is right and which one is wrong?
That's right, because we have a counterpart, or Satan, who is opposing the works of God. So how do we discern the spirit of truth?
Right. This question can be answered at some length and shortly as well. I would take the second course. The person who sees these visions or claims to have seen these visions should first be examined himself or herself. If such a person is not hysterical, if such a person is truthful in his life, if let's say he, or otherwise I have to repeat he or she, see? And if you like, I can say she as well, for the ladies are also present. If such a person is a lady and she believes that she sees vision,